Welcome to World Revolution. Dear friends, today we will share summary from the book Switch, How to Change Things When Change is Hard by Chip Heath and Dan Heath. Part 1, Overview. Change is difficult in general. You may check in with your New Year's resolutions on February 1st to see how difficult it is. Consider how difficult it is to make significant changes, such as feeding hungry, emaciated children in Africa. The concept of overview serves as a broad introduction to the book's central premise, how to implement and sustain change, whether in personal life, organizations, or society. The authors use the metaphor of a rider, an elephant, and a path to explain the psychological forces that influence behavior, helping readers understand the dynamics behind successful change. 1. The rider represents our rational side, the part of us that plans, analyzes, and thinks long-term. While logical and analytical, the rider can overthink and become paralyzed by indecision or analysis. The rider knows the destination but often struggles to initiate movement or stick to the plan when faced with resistance. 2. The elephant symbolizes our emotional side. This is the part driven by instinct, desire, and habit. While the elephant is powerful and provides energy and momentum, it can be unruly and resistant to rational guidance. If the elephant doesn't want to go in a particular direction, the rider can struggle to control it. 3. The path refers to the environment and external factors that shape behavior. It's easier to follow a clear, well-defined path than a confusing or obstructed one. Modifying the path can make change easier by removing obstacles or creating conditions that guide both the rider and the elephant in the desired direction. The framework for change. The Heath brothers propose a framework for driving change by addressing all three components. 1. Direct the rider, provide clear, specific instructions or a compelling vision. The rider needs concrete guidance to avoid overthinking or getting lost in details. 2. Motivate the elephant, inspire emotional engagement. The elephant needs to feel a connection to the change in order to provide the energy and commitment to follow through. 3. Shape the path, adjust the environment to make the desired behavior easier. This can involve tweaking social norms, adjusting policies, or even simplifying steps to make the change process smoother. Key message of the overview. The overview establishes that successful change occurs when these three forces, the rational mind, rider, the emotional mind, elephant, and the external environment, path, are aligned. The Heath brothers emphasize that failures in change efforts often stem from neglecting one or more of these elements. The rider alone can't drive change without the elephant's energy, and both can struggle if the path isn't clear or supportive. By using this framework, the authors show how change isn't just about willpower or logic but about understanding and addressing the psychological and environmental factors that influence human behavior. This provides a foundation for the more detailed strategies and case studies discussed throughout the rest of the book. Part 2, 3 Tips on How to Direct the Rider. The outline 3 critical tips on how to direct the rider, which refers to the rational side of our mind, the part that analyzes, plans, and seeks clarity. The rider can often overthink or get bogged down in too many choices, so the key is to give the rider clear, actionable direction to guide behavior change. Here's a deep dive into the 3 tips the authors present, supported by illustrative examples from the book. 1. Find the bright spots. Concept asterisk. Instead of focusing on what's wrong and trying to fix problems, look for what's working well and replicate it. In psychology, this is known as a positive deviance approach, identifying successful strategies that already exist within the system and scaling them up. Example asterisk. One of the most powerful examples the Heath brothers share is the story of Jerry Sternen's work with malnutrition in Vietnam. Instead of focusing on the vast, overwhelming problem of malnutrition, which had multiple complex causes, including poverty, poor sanitation, and lack of education, Sternen looked for families where children were better nourished despite living under the same conditions. These bright spots were families that fed their children small portions of shrimp and sweet potato grains, even though these were available to everyone. By identifying this bright spot and teaching other families to adopt these practices, Sternen helped create a simple, scalable solution to the problem of malnutrition in the region. Deep insight *. The idea is that people already have solutions, but they need help recognizing and scaling them. By directing the writer to focus on positive exceptions rather than overwhelming problems, you simplify the path to change and create a motivating example to follow. It helps prevent paralysis by analysis, a common trap for the writer. 2. Script the critical moves. Concept * ambiguity is the enemy of action. The writer loves clarity and direction but can easily become overwhelmed by too many choices. To direct the writer, you need to script specific, clear actions rather than offering vague goals or suggestions. The more specific the instruction, the easier it is for the writer to follow. Example *. The authors discuss how the food industry often uses vague health guidelines that don't lead to action. For example, the advice to eat healthier is too ambiguous to drive behavior. In contrast, a more effective campaign from the American Heart Association scripted specific critical moves by suggesting, switch to 1% milk. This small, concrete instruction was easy to follow and had a significant impact on reducing the consumption of saturated fats. It didn't ask people to overhaul their diets, which would overwhelm the writer, but instead provided a simple, actionable step. Deep insight *. By scripting critical moves, you eliminate ambiguity and create a focused path for the writer to follow. This precision reduces decision fatigue, making it easier for people to start the process of change without getting lost in overanalysis or doubt. 3. Point to the destination. Concept * People need a sense of where they are going and why it matters. The writer responds to long-term goals and logical reasons for pursuing them. This involves creating a clear vision of the end goal, something that not only motivates but also gives the writer a sense of direction and purpose. Example *. One compelling example comes from the experience of John Stegner, an executive in a large manufacturing company. He was frustrated with the company's inefficiencies, particularly with how different factories purchased the same supplies at widely varying costs. Stegner wanted to change the purchasing process, but he knew it was an overwhelming task. Instead of presenting complex spreadsheets or outlining an entire overhaul, he decided to point to the destination with a dramatic illustration. He collected a massive stack of gloves, each representing the wide price differences the company was paying, and dumped them on the conference table. This striking visual showed executives the unnecessary waste in the system and pointed clearly to a destination: streamlined, centralized purchasing. The clear destination made the case for change much more compelling. Deep insight *. A vivid, emotionally resonant vision of the future helps guide the writer. The writer needs more than just logic, it needs to see the end goal in a way that is compelling and easy to grasp. By pointing to the destination, you create a clear, motivating reason for why the writer should start moving in a specific direction. Summary of the 3 tips. Find the bright spots, look for success stories, even in challenging circumstances, and replicate those solutions. Script the critical moves, provide clear, actionable steps rather than vague instructions. Point to the destination, offer a compelling, concrete vision of where you're going and why it matters. Deep example integration. These tips help overcome the writer's tendencies to overanalyze, get lost in details, or be paralyzed by ambiguity. By focusing on the bright spots, scripting clear moves, and pointing toward a concrete destination, you make it easier for the writer to navigate change without feeling overwhelmed. Part 3. 3 Ways to Motivate the Elephant. Chip Heath and Dan Heath emphasize that lasting change requires not just directing the writer, the logical part of our brain, but also motivating the elephant, the emotional, instinctual side. The elephant, driven by feelings, often holds the power to actually implement change because emotion generates the energy to act. However, the elephant can also resist change when it feels overwhelmed or fearful. To overcome this, the authors offer 3 powerful strategies to motivate the elephant, using vivid examples to illustrate each. 1. Find the feeling. One of the most fundamental truths the Heath brothers highlight is that knowledge alone doesn't drive change, emotion does. The writer may understand the logic behind why change is necessary, but the elephant needs to feel a deep, emotional connection to the change in order to be moved into action. the authors suggest that change agents need to find the feeling that stirs people into motion. Take, for example, the case of a hospital that struggled with high infection rates due to staff not properly washing their hands. Everyone logically understood that proper hygiene was critical for patient safety. The science and data were there, but change wasn't happening. So instead of bombarding the staff with more information, the leaders used an emotional appeal. They showed the hospital staff pictures of actual patients, like babies in neonatal care units, who could be affected by poor hygiene. They created a visceral connection between the health of these vulnerable patients and the need for hand washing. The image of fragile infants, coupled with the understanding that something as simple as proper hand hygiene could save their lives, hit the staff emotionally, and as a result, hand-washing compliance increased significantly. Why this works? The writer may know the importance of hand hygiene, but without a deep emotional hook, it doesn't lead to lasting change. The elephant responds to empathy, concern, and powerful images, which creates the motivation needed to move forward. Change is hard when people don't feel a personal, emotional stake, but when they feel the need, the elephant is moved to action. 2. Shrink the change. One of the reasons the elephant resists change is that it can feel too daunting or overwhelming. Big changes seem insurmountable, which leads to inertia. This is why the authors suggest shrinking the change, breaking down large tasks into smaller, manageable steps that make the elephant feel that progress is achievable. The story of a car wash promotion provides an excellent example of this principle. In one study, customers were given loyalty cards. Some cards required 8 stamps to get a free wash, while others required 10 stamps but came with 2 already stamped. Mathematically, both groups needed the same number of washes, 8, but the group with the 10 stamp card and 2 pre-stamped slots showed a much higher completion rate. Why? Because starting with 2 stamps already filled made the goal seem smaller and more within reach. The small sense of progress, even if artificial, motivated people to keep going. Why this works? The elephant, driven by emotions, is easily discouraged when it perceives a task as too large or impossible. By shrinking the change, you create a feeling of immediate progress and momentum. When people feel they're already part of the way there, the elephant is more willing to move forward, energized by the prospect of small, visible victories. 3. Grow your people. The third strategy to motivate the elephant involves cultivating a sense of identity and helping people grow into a version of themselves that aligns with the change. People are more likely to embrace change when it fits their self-concept or when they feel it helps them become the person they aspire to be. This strategy taps into a sense of purpose, pride, and personal growth. The Heath brothers tell the story of Robin Waters, a former executive at Target, who used this principle to transform the company's image. In the early 1990s, Target was seen as a low-end retailer, and executives wanted to rebrand it as a place for affordable, chic design. Waters introduced the concept of cheap chic, which allowed the company to offer stylish products at affordable prices. More importantly, she helped employees see themselves not just as retailers but as curators of design. This new identity, being part of something creative and stylish, energized the team and helped them feel proud of their work. It wasn't just about selling products, it was about offering design to everyday people. The shift in identity fueled employees' motivation to embrace change and elevate Target's brand. Why this works? When people see change as part of becoming a better version of themselves, their elephant is motivated not by fear or resistance but by pride, aspiration, and meaning. By helping people connect with a new identity, the Heaths show how you can tap into the deep emotional drive for personal growth. The elephant wants to feel good about itself and the journey it's on, so aligning change with a positive self-concept provides sustained motivation. The power of motivation through emotion. In sum, the authors demonstrate that motivating the elephant is all about emotional resonance and making change feel achievable. Logic alone won't move people, the elephant responds to feelings. Whether it's creating an emotional connection with the cause, finding the feeling, reducing the intimidation of change, shrinking the change, or aligning the change with personal identity, growing your people, each of these strategies works to stir the elephant into action. The examples from the book highlight how real-world change happens when people aren't just convinced in their heads but moved in their hearts. When the elephant is motivated, it provides the energy and persistence necessary to make meaningful, lasting change possible. Part 4: 3 Measures to Shape the Path. Chip and Dan Heath argue that for lasting change, it's not enough to motivate the rider, the rational mind, or the elephant, the emotional mind. The path, the environment or external factors influencing behavior, must also be shaped. Change becomes far more achievable when the environment encourages or supports the desired behavior. The authors present 3 key measures to shape the path: tweak the environment, build habits, and rally the herd. Each of these measures alters the conditions in which change happens, making the new behavior easier or more automatic. Here's a deeper dive into these 3 strategies, using examples to illustrate their impact. 1. Tweak the environment. The first measure to shape the path is to tweak the environment so that it encourages the desired behavior. Often, our environment exerts a powerful influence on our actions, more than we realize. Small changes to our surroundings can either help or hinder us. By tweaking the environment, you can remove barriers to change or add cues that make the desired behavior the default. A profound example of this in the book comes from an experiment conducted in a school cafeteria. Researchers wanted to encourage students to eat healthier foods without giving them complicated instructions or educational lectures. They simply changed the physical environment. By placing healthier food options like fruits and vegetables at eye level and moving the junk food to less convenient spots, they made it easier for students to choose nutritious meals. The result was a significant increase in healthy eating, achieved without trying to change anyone's mindset, just the environment around them. Why this works: the elephant, emotional mind, prefers the path of least resistance. When the environment is tweaked to make the desired behavior easier or more accessible, people are more likely to engage in that behavior without much conscious effort. The success of the cafeteria experiment demonstrates that often, change doesn't require heroic willpower or deep emotional transformation, just a nudge in the right direction by modifying the surroundings. 2. Build habits. The second measure to shape the path is to build habits, turning desirable behaviors into automatic actions that no longer require conscious decision-making. The Heath brothers emphasize that when people don't have to think about what they need to do, they are much more likely to sustain new behaviors over the long term. To build habits, you need to create action triggers, specific cues in the environment or routine that prompt the desired behavior. One of the most illustrative examples of habit building in the book is a study conducted on healthcare workers. The challenge was to get busy nurses and doctors to sanitize their hands more frequently to prevent the spread of infections. Rather than relying on constant reminders or threatening them with consequences, the hospital implemented a simple action trigger. They placed hand sanitizer dispensers at the entrance of every patient's room. This made hand sanitization an easy, almost automatic step, integrated into their daily routine. Over time, the behavior became habitual, significantly increasing compliance with hygiene protocols. Why this works: the key insight here is that habits free the rider, rational mind, from the constant burden of decision-making. When behaviors are habitual, they become part of our daily routine and no longer require effort or willpower. The hospital staff didn't have to make a conscious decision to sanitize their hands. The action trigger, the placement of the sanitizer, prompted the desired behavior. This strategy can be applied to any change effort. The more automatic the behavior becomes, the less resistance it will face. 3. Rally the herd. The third measure to shape the path is to rally the herd, which means leveraging social norms and peer pressure to influence behavior. People often look to others to understand how they should act, especially in situations where the appropriate behavior is unclear. When we see people around us behaving in a certain way, we tend to follow suit. A compelling example from the book is the effort to reduce energy consumption in California. The utility company sent out energy usage reports to homeowners, showing not only their own consumption but also how their usage compared to their neighbors. Homeowners who used more energy than their neighbors were subtly influenced by the desire to conform to social norms, which led to a significant reduction in their energy use. Interestingly, this approach proved far more effective than simply providing information about energy conservation or offering financial incentives. It was the social comparison, knowing what the herd was doing, that had the biggest impact. Why this works: people are naturally influenced by the behavior of those around them. The elephant is highly social and wants to fit in with the group. By highlighting social norms or creating a sense of peer accountability, you can encourage people to change their behavior in a way that feels natural and compelling. The power of social influence is often underestimated, but it can be one of the most effective ways to drive widespread change. Example: conclusion, shaping the path for successful change. The three measures, tweak the environment, build habits, and rally the herd all focus on shaping the context in which people operate. Rather than relying on willpower or persuasion, these strategies work by creating a path that naturally guides behavior in the right direction. Tweak the environment makes the right behavior easier by changing the surroundings to support it. Build habits turns desired behaviors into automatic actions, reducing the need for constant decision-making. Rally the herd leverages social influence to encourage people to follow the behaviors of others around them. By shaping the path, change leaders can make the desired behavior the natural and easy choice, reducing resistance from both the rider and the elephant. This is the genius of the Heath brothers' approach. They understand that for change to stick, you don't need to change people as much as you need to change the environment and circumstances in which they operate. Part 5. Conclusion. Chip and Dan Heath tie together the central themes of the book and deliver a powerful message about the nature of change. Throughout the book, the authors argue that change is difficult not because people are resistant to it by nature, but because it is often misunderstood. The closing sections of the book focus on simplifying this process and offering hope to those seeking transformation, whether on a personal level, in organizations, or across society. The final thoughts serve as a reminder that, when approached correctly, meaningful and lasting change is possible. Understanding the framework. The Heath brothers conclude by reiterating their core framework for change, which revolves around the metaphor of the rider, elephant, and path. 1. The rider is the rational, logical part of our mind. It plans, analyzes, and makes decisions. But without clear direction, the rider tends to overthink or become paralyzed by complexity. 2. The elephant represents our emotional side, which provides the energy and motivation needed to make things happen. However, the elephant can be easily discouraged or overwhelmed, resisting change if it seems too big or daunting. 3. The path is the environment or the circumstances that shape behavior. Change becomes easier when the path is clear, and the surroundings are set up to support the new behavior. In the conclusion, the authors emphasize that real change happens when these three elements are aligned: the rider has clear direction, the elephant is motivated, and the path is shaped to make the new behavior easier. Change fails when any one of these components is neglected. The power of small wins. One of the key takeaways in the conclusion is the idea that small wins are essential for driving momentum and making large-scale change feel possible. The Heath brothers reinforce that even small, incremental progress can give the rider a sense of control and the elephant the confidence to keep moving forward. Change, they argue, does not require grand gestures or enormous efforts. Instead, it can often be achieved by focusing on small, achievable steps. The concept of shrinking the change becomes especially important here. The Heaths stress that overwhelming the rider and the elephant with the full scope of the change will lead to inaction. But by breaking down the process into manageable steps, you can generate early wins, which build motivation and create a sense of progress. In essence, small victories snowball into larger successes. Bright spots and the power of positivity. In the conclusion, the authors also return to the importance of focusing on bright spots, the idea that change agents should look for what's already working and build on it, rather than fixating on problems. This is a powerful psychological shift because it encourages hope and optimism, which are critical for motivating the elephant. For example, instead of getting bogged down by failures or challenges, change agents should identify positive deviance, instances where things are going right even in difficult circumstances. The Heath brothers argue that finding these bright spots provides a roadmap for success and serves as proof that change is not only possible but already happening in some places. The conclusion reinforces that positivity is contagious. When people see evidence of success, they become more willing to believe that change is achievable, which strengthens their emotional commitment to the process. Shaping the path. The authors also emphasize that shaping the path, the environment and external conditions that guide behavior, can be the most powerful lever for change. The conclusion argues that by making small adjustments to the environment, you can make it easier for people to adopt new behaviors without requiring constant motivation or effort. This ties back to the idea that while people may struggle to change their habits, the right environmental nudges can make the desired behavior almost automatic. For instance, tweaking the surroundings or restructuring incentives can remove obstacles to change. The Heath brothers conclude that many change efforts fail because they focus too much on personal motivation and not enough on shaping the path. In fact, sometimes the most effective way to drive change is simply to make it easier for people to do the right thing. The role of identity. A final point the authors emphasize in the conclusion is the importance of identity in driving change. They argue that lasting change often requires people to see themselves in a new way. When people identify with the change, they become more committed to it. Change becomes less about forcing oneself to adopt new behaviors and more about becoming the kind of person who naturally engages in those behaviors. For example, if someone identifies as a healthy person, they are more likely to adopt healthy eating habits not because they are forcing themselves to, but because it aligns with their self-concept. The Heaths conclude that successful change efforts often involve helping people shift their identities in a way that aligns with the desired behavior. The optimism of change. Ultimately, the conclusion of Switch is an optimistic one. The Heath brothers leave readers with the belief that change, while difficult, is not impossible. By understanding how to direct the rider, motivate the elephant, and shape the path, anyone can create the conditions for change to happen. The book's final message is that, despite the obstacles and challenges that often accompany change, there is a way forward if you break the process down, focus on small wins, and make the environment work in your favor. The conclusion serves as both a summary and a call to action. It urges readers to embrace the tools provided throughout the book and apply them in their personal lives, organizations, or even on a societal level. With the right approach, change can happen more quickly and with less resistance than most people think. Thank you for listening. I hope this content is useful to you. If you like this kind of content, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel to support our team.